Why you keep failing CXC mathematics over and over again. In this video, I will share as my story on how I got a distinction in mathematics. Also, why CXC students fail mathematics. Thirdly, how I helped Joshua and other students that should be pass mathematics, and I'm also going to talk about mathematics versus English in terms of the study time frames. Fourthly, can you write mathematics in January 2025? So I will go through a breakdown of how much time on average that a person should spend if they start 4 months before January. It's a 1 month before January. And I will also go through a breakdown of a slow, medium, and fast learner within these periods. And finally, I will end by giving you all 3 tips that can help you pass mathematics. So throughout this video, you should learn some tips and get some advice or recommendations in terms of how you could go about preparing for your exams. Now, this video is specifically for those who will be writing actually in 2025. Of course, some of these tips could be used across the board. So I would briefly be showing you all some results. Most of them were from May, June 2024 recent CXE exams. So we have Joshua Ghani, and I will help sort him both. Hold on. Both maths and English, he got a 2 in them. I will come back to Joshua later on in this video. We have Sarah, who will have gotten a 2 in maths and a 3 in POA. We have Kimberly McLean, who got a 3 in maths. We have Rihanna, who got a 3 in mathematics. Let me zoom this down a bit. Oh no. Right. We also have Kimberly Sutherland, who got a 2 in mathematics. She also got a 1 in principles of business and social studies. And yes, I thought are all 3 subjects. Also, we have Shiva, who would have gotten a 1 in maths and a 2 in English B. We have Fiola, who's the mother of Jumak, and Jumak would have gotten a 2 in mathematics. We have Kelly, who got a 2 in mathematics. We have Varun now. Varun, all the other students I would have thought more than Varun. With Varun, it was, should I say, a collaborative effort between one of my other math teachers and myself, and the other math teacher mainly spent more time with him, and I also contributed to some level of the knowledge that he obtained in mathematics as well. So we have Varun, who got a 1 in maths. We have Logan, who got a 2 in both maths and English. So I'm just showing you all some of these, and most of these students I thought the subjects that you saw and based on the grades that they got as well. Now, we are going to discuss a little bit about me. So some of you may or may not know who I am. So I am Michelle C. and Augustine. Some people call me the principal of Vietnam Succeeders Academy. Well, I'll just say founder, managing director, because they assign manage everything that goes on within this academy. Now, long time ago, I used to fail everything. I'm not going to the full story. I used to fail in primary school. My grandmother realized I needed divine intervention. She prayed to God through Jesus Christ. God heard her prayer. I changed my attitude, was my week. And she also hired her son to teach both my sister and I mathematics. Now, when I started lessons, I started around the last term in standard 3, and I was in mathematics class from standard 3 straight until I wrote exams in 2011 CXE. Right, so I was in math lesson for about 7 years. Now, by the time I was in Form 2, which was around 2008 or so, I was already getting 98, 99, 100 in maths. I could have written maths before, but I chose not to. Now, a lot of the things that helped me in my maths class was the fact that my uncle had a technique where he would do revision with us every single class, and we would also learn new material. And that's something that I also do in my classes. You can ask any of my previous students, they will tell you, right? So I those were the things that, generally speaking, of course, there's more details, but for the sake of time, I'll be very brief, that helped me to obtain a distinction in maths. So when I graduated, this was one of the 2 plaques I got because I got the highest distinction in my school that year. Out of all the students who wrote mathematics in my secondary school, and it was, yes, a distinction. So I was awarded for excellent performance at CSEC Mathematics. Now, why CXC students fail mathematics? These are some of the, should I say, foundational reasons why there are more. Some students just have a weak foundational knowledge. Now, you have to think about maths like this. We started learning maths from since in primary school. So, as like some of those topics, such like fractions and stuff, does come in the CXC exam, regardless of if you are a Form 5, a repeater, a first-time adult. Now, I personally have taught persons of those different categories, right? The youngest I have taught, because I've also taught SC students as well, is 7-year-old students. The oldest person up to date that I have taught is a 45-year-old individual. So I teach between that age bracket. Of course, if you're older and you want to teach it, I don't have no problem tutoring as long as you're willing to put in the work, take advice, and do what you have to do. But yeah, some persons have a weak foundational knowledge, and this can affect how long you would take to cover the topic. Others have poor time management. So some students lack discipline, and I'm not trying to bring anybody down because that was me a couple of years ago, right? I used to be, when I was in high school, and so I had to depend on my family always reminding me of being on me to study my work. Now, when I started going to university, my whole mindset and everything changed because I was in my early 20s and I'm serious about accomplishing my academic goals. And then I praised the God for direction, and he helped me to put together a time management, should I say, routine that I follow, a lot of it even up to this day. And that's something I also share with my students, right? With my paid students. And I help them to manage their time. Some of them would attend what's called my activity time management workshop to help them set proper timetable schedules to make sure that they put in enough time in order to accomplish their academic goals. Now, on other occasions, there are students who just lack practice, they don't practice enough. So everybody have a different average. Now, I could tell you, based on the last exam I did a couple of years ago in university, my average for a topic that has some mathematics, should I say, working to be completed, is usually 4. That's before exams though. So before exam, if I do a question as like the same set of questions or similar 4 times, I and write it over, not just read it, because math is a practical subject. You want to write a practice to remember. I will remember, and I did that for an exam not very long ago, and I got an A. So even though you may learn something for the first time in a class, or if you are doing your own studies, right, you are not going to remember that a week from now or a month from now. So you will hear me say revision is the key to remember everything you have learned. Anything you want to remember based on what you learned, you have to revise. And practice also helps you to build confidence. So for you to be confident before you walk into the exam, you have to practice, and you will know when you're confident, right? As long as you practice enough. And another important problem or issue that I've seen with some students. Now, the students that I showed who got good maths grades and pass grades, those students were really consistent with classes. Some of them may miss one or two classes, but they were there. A lot of them, what we do at BNTOP Succeeders Academy, when April comes around, we give students the opportunity to continue until the end of April. And depending on what dates their exams are scheduled, some of them continue until May. So a number of these students who did really well continued with us until May because, for example, mathematics, they split the exams where in prior years you would have paper one and paper two on the same days. Now, this year, past and last year as well, they had paper two maths in May, and they had paper one maths in June. So students who stayed with us, they got extra practice, extra revision. We keep pushing them, encouraging them, drilling them. And that's why a lot of them, the majority of them did excellent. Now, as I said, everybody have their own decision to make. It had some who did not choose to continue into May, and that's their choice. But I am telling you, those who actually continue to the end of May, they would have done really well. So, inconsistency. There are some students who they want to pass the exams, they want to get a 2 or 1, a distinction, those type of grades, but you are not in class often, and worse yet, since we at BNTOP Succeeders provide recordings, some students are not even going to the recordings. Now, it have the others who do, right? So if you're inconsistent, right, that will affect your performance and your confidence before the exam. So consistency is very important. When you start, yes, there are days you're not going to feel like it, but you have to push yourself. Because there's a saying, as long as you want to accomplish your goal as badly as you want to breathe, you will accomplish it. This is something I learned from E.T. Eric Thomas, who is a motivational speaker and a successful businessman. So now I'm going to do a little breakdown of how I helped. I'm going to focus on one student. Now, for the sake of time, I can't do everyone because I don't want this video to be overly long. So I'm going to focus on one of my past students, recent, who wrote in May, June 2024, right? So his name is Joshua Gani, to be specific. And I taught him both mathematics and English. He was a repeater this year because he wrote in school last year and he did not pass, right? And when I was teaching him, I realized that they did not cover a lot of materials in school with him because he also told me, said, Miss, I never learned these things in school. I was like, wow, interesting. So what goes on in the public school again? Now, in both English and maths, Joshua obtained a grade 2, which is very good. Now, he actually told me, because I just asked my students, he told me last year, September 2023, when he started classes with me, Miss, I wanted a grade 2. I was like, okay, fine, right? I'm not going to push him to get anything higher, because if that's where his mind is set, that's what he will work towards, right? So you can't really force students, right? And he got what he wanted, and he was happy about that. Now, let me zoom this down a little bit. In terms of time frame, Joshua was in classes from September, the beginning of September 23 to the end of May 2024. So he was one of the students who stuck with the maths class till the end. Of course, there were times I had to contact his mom, to of course also push him as well. Because you know what has happened with the young people, right? And sometimes some adults as well that need that push. Now, in terms of maths versus English, he would have spent on average 76 hours of classes with me, right? So that's like on average one class per week most of the times, right? There were a few occasions closer to the exams we had English 2 times a week, right? In terms of maths, for maths he spent 3 times the amount of time he spent for English in classes to get that grade 2. So he had to work 3 times harder to get that grade 2 in maths than to get that grade 2 in English. So I need you all to understand how much more times. And he is a fast learner. He's not a slow learner. Like Joshua, if I explain something twice, Joshua gets it. Most of the times, he's a quick learner. So imagine a quick learner had to spend this type of time to get a grade 2. What's going to happen to a medium learner or a slower learner? Things to keep in mind. So we spent on average in terms of classes, because I knew how much classes I had, right, with them, 240 hours, which means he still had his one classes for the from 2023. By the time we hit 2024, because I know what maths is all about, he started to attend 2 classes a week. By the time it was around March, we started 3-4 classes a week, and then we build from there, right? So maths, some people have had people message and say, Miss, I've been trying to pass maths, going here, there, everywhere. And like maths is a problem, but maths is something you have to pay special attention to and give it the time that it requires, right? You have to give it the time that it requires. So I am going to move on quickly to this part for persons who are intending to write mathematics in January 2025. I'm going to go through a breakdown of, depending on when you're going to choose to start studying, or for those of you who may join a class or a school to help you in your studies, how much time per week on average you will need to spend to obtain that goal. So 4 to 1 month, and we're going to talk about the slow learners, the medium learners, the fast learners. And then each person will know whether they have that kind of time on their hands to cover maths to get at least a grade 2. Some people may get a grade 3 with all that time that they have to sacrifice, because again, maths has a lot to cover. Some may get a grade 1. It depends on if you're slow, fast, or medium, and whether you have any background knowledge in the subject. Furthermore, how recent you did the subject as well. Because if you did maths 10 years ago, you might remember next to nothing, right? If you did maths a year ago, you may remember some things, right? So all of that is going to affect how much time you spend per week in order to obtain your goal, right? I need you all to know, for those who are not aware, a normal week of 7 days has a total of 168 hours per week, which means based on the time frames I'm going to give, it may be possible for some of you to spend this kind of time, but then it depends on your life and work or school schedule, depending if you are in school student doing about 6, 7, 8 subjects, if you are a repeater doing 1, 2, or whatever subjects, and then you have to work, or if you are a repeater doing subjects and you don't have to work. So remember that you are studying as the syllabus, mathematics syllabus, is usually covered in 2 school years, while students are in Form 4 and 5. So when you are covering that time frame of material in 4, 3 to 1 months, guess what? You're going to have to spend more time than normal. So here's how we're going. 4 months, a slow learner. So 4 months will mean from September. Today, I'm making this video, which is the 4th of September 2024. And if you intend to stop your studies, just giving a rough end by the end of December, which I know some people will continue until the exams, the first week in January and stuff, but I'm just giving a 4-month breakdown here. A slow learner. So, a lot of people would know if they're slow. Some people don't even know if they're slow. To me, a slow learner is like, if I do a new topic, I may have to take 2 classes, which is 4 hours, 2 classes or more to go through that for that person to remember and understand. So if you have to take multiple classes to like remember a topic, you are a slow learner. That's in my opinion. If you are a medium learner, usually you may understand it within a class, but it may take you about 5 or more examples. If you are a fast learner, like I explained Joshua before, usually after going through 2 examples per topic or close to 3, you already understand. So that's how I kind of evaluate slow and fast medium learners. Now, so if you're a slow learner, you start in classes from December, you may need on average to spend 16 to 20 hours weekly until exam every single week. If you cannot do this, join a class that will help you stay on top of the schedule. Now, a medium learner may need to spend 12 to 16 hours weekly until exams. A fast learner, 8 to 12 hours weekly until the exams. Right now, some people say, well, I don't have that time. If you don't have that time, write in May, June instead. Right? Because you need to stick to the schedule. Okay? Now, if it is you choose to start classes in October, the 1st of October, and you want to write maths in January, so I'll give you a 3-month breakdown. And again, you could continue this until you write your exam in January, of course. A slow learner, on average, 21 to 27 hours weekly. And this is to make sure you cover enough material and do your revision to remember what you learned at the same time, right? Now, this will work for someone who either do like part-time or part-time job or something, right? Or they have part-time school and they have a lot of free time. Now, someone who's a medium learner, 16 to 21 hours weekly until the exams. Someone who is a fast learner, it would be around 10 to 16 hours weekly to cover maths, right? So, again, you have to know where you are in terms of the learner, and, that will kind of give you an idea. And if you're not sure which learner you are, when you start studying, you will know. If you find topics are giving you problems, like real problems to understand, you are on the slow end. If you are medium, you may take probably within an hour to figure out something. I'll give you a medium. If it is you're a fast learner, usually you would understand it, a topic within 10-15 minutes of delving into the topic itself, right? Now, those who want to join real last minute, we're talking about November, right? 2024. You have 2 months. A slow learner, 32 to 40 hours. This is for people who either working from home and don't have to travel or drive, so you have that extra time, and possibly working part-time. Medium learner, 24 to 32 hours weekly. A fast learner, 16 to 24 hours weekly until the exams, right? So if you know you cannot work on this, don't join a class in November. Start studying now or join classes now, and keep up with the previous times for either 3 months or 4 months that I give, right? And you can adjust it to suit your speed, right? Because even though I'm giving slow, medium, fast, some people have some in-between speeds, and some may be way slower. Like it have all kind of different variations of slow. I have been teaching for over 5 years, and I've dealt with all kind of different versions of slow, fast, and medium, right? Okay. And I believe I went through if you have fast 16 to 24 hours a week. Now, for those last minute crammers, I sorry for you. I don't even recommend what I'm going to show. But if you choose to do this to yourself and any of the above as well, make sure and use brain food, because that will be a lot of stress on your brains. You don't want to go mad. You don't want to die from stress. You don't want to, be giving your body too much of pressure. So you want to make sure and use your brain food and any other vitamin for your nervous system and stuff. But for people who like the last month thing, I know they out there, right? The crammers, the real last minute people. If you choose to study from December, which is a full month, and then you have a week or two in January, Slow learners, 64 to 80 hours a week. That means you don't have no work, you don't work, you are home all the time. So the rest of the time you can spend sleeping, probably watching TV in terms of news, and then you have to sacrifice most of your time, probably 8-12 hours a day or more, right? You have to break it down in days, right? But I have it in terms of weekly hours to cover as much as everything to either get a grade 2 or 3. It may take you to a grade 1 if you're a fast learner, this schedule, right? A medium learner, again, you should be working. You need to be home alone. Well, when I say home alone, home all the time, 48 to 64 hours weekly until the exams. A fast learner, 32 to 48 hours weekly until the exams. And this may take you, as I said, usually around a grade 2, some might fall on a grade 3. If you're real good, you'll end up on a grade 1. But this is a pressure schedule because, again, you are trying to cover about 8 major topics, 8 or 9 of my head, major topics that usually some of these topics take 4-6 weeks to cover. In a short period of time, you are going to be spending almost like a work day. So you need to be home all the time. I know some people like to work for Christmas. So if you have this last minute schedule and you think you can make it, forget it. Go for major. The long run will be a little bit more ease for you. So in closing, 3 tips that can help you pass maths. Of course, revise, revise, revise. I know some people don't like to revise, but revision is the only key that's going to help you remember what you learned. In order for you to pass, you need to remember what you learned by the time you are going into the exam. So revise, revise, revise. 2, keep up with your weekly schedule. So I give you all some estimates in terms of time. Whenever you choose to start classes or start studying, if you're doing it on your own, keep up with your time schedule. If you need to add more hours, add more hours. You will know, well, some people may know at least. If you don't know, if you're in my classes, you can ask me, I will give you some advice, right? But yeah, you need to keep up with your time schedule, avoid missing your study time or classes revision based on how much time you would be spending per week. Practice a lot of past papers. The more you practice past papers, the more confidence you'll be. Textbook examples and exercises are okay, but they are not the best. So practice a lot of past papers. Now, bonus tip is this. If you can afford it, pay for classes. It don't have to be with us. There are many schools in Trinidad and Tobago. Some of you are from different parts of the Caribbean. There are other teachers who teachers or tutors who offer mathematics and different subjects. But we're talking mainly about mathematics because you know this is the big boy, right? In Trinidad and Tobago, actually in the Caribbean, only 36% of students pass maths this year, May, June. So yeah, if you can afford it, either pay for classes with whoever you choose to, because that will help you, especially if you lack discipline. So some people might start a hot and sweaty week when they're spending 12 hours a week. By next week or the end of the month, they die down like Baji. So what I'm saying is, if it is you can afford it to keep you on top of your game, pay for classes wherever you choose, and that may help to push you. Right? So that's the end of this video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe and follow for more videos and tips like this. Goodbye.